So, you've heard about the concept of Gish in Dungeons & Dragons, a character who combines magic and melee and becomes quite effective at the table. Maybe this is something you've been wanting to play. You've probably seen people doing this by taking a martial class and deciding to make a deal with the devil for a really dope looking sword. But deals are complicated, and selling your soul isn't always what it's cracked up to be. Let's see if we can get the same feel from a 6th level character without doing all that messy paperwork. As with many of my builds, this is not going to be the most optimized way to do this. I'm just looking to make a character who fits a theme, but is still effective mechanically. For those of you who want to know the details of the build, here they are. We're going to be a Wood Elf Paladin Cleric multiclass with the Outlander background. This build is going to be a tank who will focus on protecting allies as well as being a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. You will have a variety of options to handle situations with your 2 spell lists and the combination of your class features, so you can easily fit the role of survivalist or a champion of nature. Now that we have the concept in place, let's get to the details. Starting off, I decided to go with Wood Elf for the Dark Vision, Fey Ancestry, Fleet of Foot, and the hit the prerequisites for a feat. Dark Vision at 60 feet is always good so we can get around without needing a light. Fey Ancestry protects us from magically being put to sleep and being charmed. And Fleet of Foot gives us the movement speed of 35. As for the feat we'll be taking, I thought a good way to round out the theme of a survivalist who protects the land is to take Wood Elf Magic. This feat gives you the ability to cast Long Strider and Pass Without Trace once per long rest without needing a spell slot. This can be useful when you're trying to move around faster or stealthier. The main reason I actually wanted this feat is because it gives us a choice of a cantrip from the Druid spell list. In this case, I went with Shillelagh so I can turn any club or quarterstaff into a magical weapon that deals 1d8 damage and uses our wisdom for a spellcasting ability. With this cantrip, we actually can improve our melee capabilities whenever we decide to improve our cleric spellcasting ability, since they both use wisdom. Some of you might be aware that there's a new Dragonlance book out that officially introduced the option of taking a feat like Magic Initiate at 1st level without needing to be a variant human. So we could actually get Shillelagh at 1st level instead of 4th. While this is very tempting for this character, I decided not to use this since it's tied to the campaign setting of Dragonlance. I was wanting to make this character work with any setting, but if your DM allows this option, go for it and maybe just pick another cantrip at 4th level. For this character, I will be using the optional features from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything to enhance and modify some features. With this, I'm actually going to be taking the ability score improvements from Wood Elf and put a +2 into Wisdom and a +2 into Constitution. Assuming you're using point buy, I would go with the stat spread of 13 Strength, 8 Dexterity, 14 Constitution, 11 Intelligence, 16 Wisdom, and 14 Charisma. If you're using a different method, just remember you need at least a 13 in your Strength, Wisdom, and Charisma to multi-class into Paladin and Cleric. As for background, I went with Outlander for the proficiency in Athletics, Survival, and a musical instrument. We also get the feature Wanderer, which helps us recall geographical information about the land around us, as well as being able to gather food and water for our party. This is assuming that the land offers a way to acquire such things. For the first 4 levels of this build, we're going to start a holy journey with going into Paladin. While they get many features, the ones we're going to focus on are proficiencies, lay on hands, fighting style, divine smite, and sacred oath. The proficiencies we get for starting in this class are all weapons, armor, and shields. You also get 2 skills from the paladin list. Any of them are valid, but I decided to go with religion and insight for more information gathering. Lay on hands gives us a pool of 20 hit points at this level to bring up people who are dying or to neutralize poison or diseases. This might be useful if your DM decides to give your barbarian a nasty rash when you're trekking through the woods. For the fighting style, I wanted to go with Interception, so we can reduce the damage dealt by someone that is hit within 5 feet of us by 1d10 plus a proficiency bonus, as long as we have a shield or weapon in hand. Paladins also get Divine Smite, which is a great way to help out damage since we can expend a spell slot to deal extra radiant damage whenever we hit with a melee weapon attack. The damage starts at 2d8 when using a 1st level spell slot, but increases by 1d8 per level for a max of 5d8. We also get an additional d8 if the creature is an undead or fiend, so it actually maxes out at 6d8. When we decide our sacred oath, it helps us differentiate ourselves from other paladins. While all of them would be perfectly viable, I wanted to go with Oath of Ancients to stay with the nature theme. The main features we're going to get from this are domain spells and the channel divinity. The spells that this oath gives us are Ensnaring Strike and Speak with Animals. Ensnaring Strike gives us the option of restraining a creature we hit and cover them in vines and deals piercing damage while they are stuck. Speak with Animals can be fun if you need to ask a squirrel for directions or just want to have a nice chat. The channel divinity options we get from Paladin are either to cause more vines to appear to restrain a creature within 10 feet of us, or cause a Fae or Fiends within 30 feet of us to run away, if they fail a Wisdom saving throw. Our channel avidity resets on a short rest, so we'll have plenty of time to use it, assuming we actually get some rest during the day. At 4th level is when we finally get to take the Wood Elf magic feat, so the character is going to start being more effective with our weapons. Since we've already decided that the gods are pretty awesome, we're going to further dedicate ourselves by finishing off with 2 levels into Cleric. Multi-classing into Cleric gives us many features, but the ones we're going to focus on are the spell list we can pick from, a Divine Domain, and more options for our channel avidity. For the Divine Domain, Nature Domain would actually continue to fit the nature theme, but I imagine we'll be running around with metal armor. This could actually be an issue if a thunderstorm appears, so why not just dedicate ourselves to being Conduit of Storms and instead choosing Tempest Domain. This domain gives us more spells we always have prepared, as well as the feature Wrath of the Storm. The domain spells we get at this level are Fog Cloud, to give us some cover when we need to run away, and Thunder Wave for when we need to push a crowd of enemies 15 feet away from us if they fail the con save. Whenever we inevitably get hit with a melee attack, we can actually retaliate with Wrath of the Storm. With this, we can force the attacker to make a dexterity saving throw, or they take 2d8 thunder or lightning damage, or even half on a success. As for the channel avidity, we get the options of Turn Undead or Destructive Wrath. Turn Undead is very similar to the panel in channel avidity, except it only affects undead within 30 feet of us. But the real fun option is Destructive Wrath, which you can use to deal the maximum damage with lightning or thunder damage instead of rolling. So, how does this build play at the table? Compared to similar builds that focus on being a Hexblade Warlock, it doesn't have as much raw power, but there's a lot of features we get from the theme that will more than make up for it. You have fairly good defensive options with heavy armor and shields, and with starting off with chainmail and a shield, you'll have an AC of 16 or 18. Your strength score does limit what armor you can wear, but you can easily increase it to 15 if you want to use splint or plate armor with a later ability score increase. Cleric and Paladin give you a wide variety of spells with a total of 3 cantrips and 16 spells prepared between them. This does not even include the long stride and pass without trace from Wood Elf magic. Because we are multi-classing into 2 spellcasters, we even have 2nd level spell slots we can use for Smite or upcasting our other spells. Some of the go-to spells I would always have prepared are as follows: Bless to give allies 1d4 to attack rolls and saving throws, Compel to duel to become the focus of a single target, Shield of Faith to increase someone's AC by 2, and Protection over Evil and Good to ward allies from certain creature types. The character's main combat ability is tied to Shillelagh, which is a bonus action to cast and only lasts a minute. This should be plenty of time for a single combat, but it does usually require you to start the combat casting it. The damage is also limited to 1d8, but that's in line with other one-handed weapons. So you do have multiple options for your reaction with Wrath of the Storm and Interception fighting style, so you can decide which one you want to use based off the situation. One of the unfortunate multi-classing limitations is that you do not get multiple uses of Channel Divinity even though it comes from 2 different classes. You have 4 options but only 1 used per short rest. But your options are great depending on the situation you find yourself in. You can restrain, deal more damage, or even have 3 different creature types run away from you. This feature is limited, but very powerful. You currently don't have extra attack because we're multi-classing, but your damage output per hit can be pretty good. With a 1st level Divine Smite, we can get 3d8 plus 3 damage for an average about 17 damage, but if you want to deal some real damage, I would combine the 2nd level Divine Smite with a Thunderous Smite. Thunderous Smite can deal an extra 2d6 thunder damage, which we can just max to 12 if we want to use Destructive Wrath. So that is 4d8 plus 15 damage for an average of 33 damage in a single hit. Now that's a lot of damage. As for leveling this character in the future, I would personally go with at least 7 levels in Paladin for extra attack, Aura of Protection for bonus to saves, and Aura of Warding to give resistance to spell damage. I would also want to go at least 6 levels into Cleric for more spells, an additional use of Channel Avidity, and Thunderbolt Strike that can push larger or smaller creatures that have been dealt lightning damage 10 feet away from us. So what would you think of this build? What would you do differently? I would love to hear your thoughts or builds I should attempt in the future. Either way, here's an inspiration for your next saving throw, and I hope you have a nice day.